Hey, happy Thursday, everyone. Can y'all hear me okay? Hey, hey. Happy Thursday, happy Thursday. Awesome. Thank you. How y'all holding up out there? Hey. Yay. All right. Tariiq is on, so let's get him on.
Hello, hello.
Hey, hey, Tariiq. How are you?
Just fine. How are you, Miss Charlyn?
I'm doing great, great. Woo! It's been a while. A little bit.
It has been a while.
I mean,
I
temporary
blame the.
shape up. We did a thing about what 3 or 4 weeks ago now with
Has it been that long?
the Rodness Institute.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I miss seeing you
I
in
was there.
person.
I remember.
I miss your hugs. I miss
I
the leaf
I
let out.
know. I know. I feel like you've grown up so much in the past 2 months. It's like I've missed everything, but watching it all unfold on here.
Yeah, it's been different. How are you doing over there?
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I actually came into the office today.
What?
I did. I did. I wear my mask and everything, so make sure I'm protected. But I find I'm a little bit more productive at work
Ooh,
than I am at home.
true.
Yeah, at home, it's built it's designed to just relax and cool out,
Right.
and so it can be really hard to get in the groove there sometimes unless I have to.
Yeah,
So
I've been trying one of my projects for this quarantine is getting my home office together so I can work in my office. I'm not succeeding to the I thought I would be by now, but it is what it is.
I understand we're all moving a little slow right now.
We are. I'm trying to get this camera right. Okay, so welcome to the Shape Up Live. We
Yeah, everybody.
are in Lee's Barbershop in Southeast DC, so we are sending love and light to them. Man, we miss them as well. And I think it's kind of ironic too. The last one we did at Lee's was about grief, and then
Mm-hmm.
the world just bust
Turn
open.
around. Right. Plenty to grieve about now.
Right.
Hmm.
So shout out to Lee's. And
What's up, everybody that leaves?
I know. And so we're starting with today. For anybody that's not familiar, starting with today is a nonprofit organization. We're based in the Washington, D.C. area. We service Washington, D.C. and Prince George's County with a focus on Prince George's County within the Beltway, and then Ward 7 and 8 in Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm Charlyn. I'm the founder and executive director. We do a lot with starting with today. We have 3 pillars that we operate under: career development, also financial education, and mental health. And what we did with the mental health program to expand it was to bring a Black mental health therapist to the Black barbershop. This brings in Tariiq, who saw the vision very early on, was so supportive of what we were trying to do. And I think it was just a really divine fit. And I'm so grateful for you. And yeah, so
Grateful for
Tariiq is
you.
a licensed
This.
marriage family therapist.
Hmm.
He operates, I think, in Bowie and Largo. Is that
Well, Largo and Silver Spring.
Largo and Silver Spring?
Hmm.
He's also an author. He's also a host. He's also slash 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 slash. He does a lot of dope things. So check out his website. I think it's TariiqOmari.com.
TariiqOmariWalton.com.
Okay, that has like
Or better yet, go. That has that's my entire thing. But
right.
if you go to viewsandvibes.com,
That's
that
the
one
one.
has more of my Well, that's my old TV show. My old
Oh,
TV talk show that I started back in 2010. The name of that was Views and Vibe.
okay,
And so the website I have associated with that has episodes of the TV show. It has my old articles.
okay.
It has just a lot of my content is on Views and Vibe. So you go to
I know
Views
one of
and
the
Vibe.
books that you authored was "It's Just a Damn Day," right? That's
Yep.
about, I guess, relationships or the beginning of relationships.
Yeah.
Um,
Beginning stages. Yeah.
beginning stages. So yeah. So anyway,
Mhm.
we hadn't talked about relationships in a little while, and if there's ever a time to check in, I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
right now is the time. You know, it
It
is.
is the time.
It's kind of challenging. You know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I had. Okay.
All right. There
Sorry.
you go.
I told Tariiq to
Stop playing with
on Do
things,
Not
lady. Stop playing
Disturb,
with them.
and I forgot to put myself on Do Not Disturb. So sorry. Um, yeah, so I want to get started about, we talk a lot about relationships with other people, right? And we all want
Hmm.
to jump into romantic relationships and have them be blissful without doing any self-check, any self-work.
Right.
And I think this is a great opportunity while DC area is still pretty much locked down to do
Hmm.
some self-work. So I want to start with relationships with self. What are some things that we should be doing or talking about or working on when we talk about self-love and self-care?
Mm. Well, I think the main thing right now to do, and you just mentioned it too, is check in. You have to check in with. I think a lot of us are feeling anxious. We're feeling kind of helpless or confused, and we're frustrated. We're irritable. Some of us are, we're resentful of the situation,
Yeah.
and we're not really articulating that. We feel it,
Right.
but we're not talking about it. And so I think the first thing you need to do is really recognize what are you going through.
Right.
Do you feel resentful that, you can't go out and see your friends or get out of the house as much as you would like to? Are you feeling anxious, when you do go out of the house? Are you feeling, overwhelmed by all the expectations that are put on you, even though you're not feeling at your best?
Yes, yes,
So
and
I
yes.
think yeah. Things for us really
All
don't
the
slow down,
above. All the
you
above.
know? And so we're all going, I mean, there's so many of us, we're all going through these same kind of feelings. And so I think you need to be first aware of what you're feeling and then find a way to either articulate it. Well, not definitely articulate it, but then how are you going to do it? Are you just going to sit there and stew and let your anxiety get the best of
Yeah.
you? In terms of feeling overwhelmed, are you just going to constantly feel overwhelmed? Would you like to get that off your shoulder, get that weight off your shoulder?
Right. And,
And so,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, just I had talked to my therapist about the same thing, and I think a lot of times I was just thinking it was just okay, it's a pandemic and like it's this collective grief, but it is like this self grief that you're going through, right? So everything that you thought would happen is not happening anymore. So how do you begin to
Mhm.
deal with that and then reprogram again, like kind of the same thing, like are you going to sit there or are you going to like push forward?
Right. And I think a lot of us have gotten trapped, especially early on.
Yeah,
I think, it's a hard adjustment for a lot of us.
yeah,
And a lot of us just kind of sat there and just like trying to figure things out on our own.
right,
And we just kind of stewed in it. And I think I'm seeing as I'm communicating with people that they're getting a little bit more, um, they have a better handle on things. And so they're actually being a little bit more active or at least dealing with it better.
right.
So early on, I think it was a lot rougher on people. But now I think we're kind of getting into a groove a little bit. But I think a lot of us are still dealing with like a lot of anxiety,
Yeah.
and still feeling very overwhelmed. And so, that is maybe nothing new for us, but it's in a new fashion.
It's
You
heightened. It's
probably,
heightened. It's more.
yeah.
I think I already had some anxiety before, and I felt like I was just getting around to kind of coping with it. And then it's like this onslaught,
Mhm.
constant bad news too, So it's just your personal
Yeah.
anxiety, then it's this bad news layered on top. It does feel heavy at times. And I think you think you're right. I'm beginning to adjust to it. I'm not sure if anybody else is feeling the same, but even still, I feel like a slug moving, not
Hmm.
necessarily like
Right.
the gazelle I thought I was, you know.
Right, right. I mean, just like you mentioned, you had planned on getting your home office together,
Yeah.
and here it is 2 months later, and you still haven't.
Dang,
That
you
doesn't
made
make
me
you a
drag
slouch. Yeah, that doesn't make you a slouch. That doesn't mean you're being lazy, but you're going through something.
Yeah,
We're all going through something. We're going through something that we have never experienced before, not in our lifetime.
that's true.
And so when you're dealing with that kind of weight, you have to be easy on yourself. You
Mhm.
have to take it easy. You have to treat yourself with compassion. A lot of us aren't used to doing that. We used to just going, and just fighting through things. But now you have this time to kind of reflect, treat yourself better than you usually do.
Mm.
Sit back and just kind of say, okay, I'm feeling something. This is what I'm feeling. I don't want to feel that way. Let me deal with that. Let me not put all this weight on myself because this is what should be happening. Right now, I'm working on a book. How well do you think that book is going? All right, it's taking its time. It's slow. Usually I'm knocking things out, but I don't have that in me because of all the other things going on.
Right,
I just don't have that kind of that verb right now,
right.
and that's okay. That's okay. I'm not gonna put additional pressure on myself to
Mhm.
complete things if the energy just isn't there.
That's
And so you shouldn't feel the need to do the same thing. So just be compassionate, be easy, sit back, relax, get yourself together first. And as you begin to feel better, then you may be able to do things that you've been wanting to do.
you know what?
Reading more books.
You brought a good
So,
point up to like be good to yourself. And one of the things that I have recently begun to do that has helped me is um, my therapist had recommended, treating my home, my workspace like a spa. So even when I'm doing stuff that I don't want to do, how do I bring candles in, bring tea? I got some tea here now. Make,
mhm,
add some strawberries or some cucumbers to my water.
mhm,
And to
right,
create like this relaxing environment, even if I'm doing some grueling work.
right.
And saying I deserve, sometimes you wait to use stuff for like a special occasion and like, no, this is the special occasion. This is
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But see, people have to be careful with that too, because a lot of people have been falling back on, alcohol
Oh
as a
yeah,
means to kind of
true,
treat themselves.
true.
So it's like, okay, well, I've been saving this, let me use it now. You might want to slow down with it. You
Right.
mentioned coping before, coping with anxiety before. I think a lot of people have fallen into bad coping mechanisms.
Oh, that's so
You
true.
know,
And I think
you know,
drinking is a default. I didn't mention that, but I do have a weekly, happy hour with my crew and my Zoom crew.
mhm,
And but even with that, it's like, are we relying on that to get through? And most people don't realize, alcohol is a depressant. So if you're already, it doesn't make you
yeah,
feel better
it
in the
does.
long run.
In the long run, like in the immediate place, you are feeling a little bit better, but that wears off and you're going to be bottoming out at some point. So you don't want to rely on it.
That's true.
You should never have to rely on it. And so what we do want to talk about are better coping mechanisms, right?
Right.
In terms of self-care, you want to be able to figure out, okay, so what do I need to do to make sure that I am managing my anxiety? I'm managing that sense of being overwhelmed. If I'm feeling resentful, how do I get away from that? And so one of the things a lot of therapists like to use is this technique called STOP, STOPP.
Okay.
And so, basically what you're doing is the first thing you're doing is actually stopping. Once you check in, that's what you're doing. When you're checking with yourself, you just stop. When you're recognizing that you're having this anxiety, when you're recognizing that you're feeling overwhelmed, you just want to stop.
Okay.
Just come to a complete stop. Then take a breath. We all know how to breathe, right? But you want to learn how to breathe properly. And so, one of the instructions I give, especially when I'm teaching meditation, is to learn how to breathe through your nose and out through your mouth. But to do it slow and controlled. Don't hold your breath. Don't do these short little breaths. No. Breathe in deeply through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. And just keep that same cycle and just control your breathing and just allow it to enter your body, because the more you breathe, the more relaxed you're going to feel. It's just a natural thing. Your body needs oxygen. And so the deeper you breathe and the more that you're doing it, the more that oxygen's getting into your body and you feel better naturally. That's just biology. And so just stop, take a few minutes to breathe. I have an alarm on my phone to remind me to breathe at 11 o'clock every day. You know,
Really? And you know
yeah.
what? One
Yeah,
of the things that I've been able to do, and I'm glad you brought that up, is to incorporate. And I've been doing it a little bit more, like with, doing yoga in the morning and meditating, but now it's like it's critical. That
Mhm.
time is so important to me to do that, and to be intentional about my day. And we had Michelle last week that talked about meditation and breathing through it. She did an awesome job. So I think it's really great that you highlight that, because it
Mhm.
is vital to our psyche and our wealth and our health.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, the meditating, especially, but the breathing, because a lot of people may have a hard time slowing down their brain to just relax and meditate, which is a whole another thing to learn.
Right.
This is just something easy to do right in the present, you know.
Yeah.
So you stop, you breathe. Then the O in stop is for observe. And when we talk about observing, it's observing what's going on with you. You know, so if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, where in your body are you feeling it? You know, kind of
Mm.
scan over your body. Are you feeling it in your shoulders? Are you feeling it in your neck? Are you feeling it in your stomach? I mean, where are you feeling
Wow.
um, the anxiety and everything? So just kind of scan over your entire body. So while you're sitting there breathing, allow that you take that time to just say, okay, this is what I'm feeling, and this is where I'm feeling. You know, and so that's the big thing. Just observe yourself. Look at yourself, shut off everything else around you, and just kind of sit there and kind of look at yourself and what's going on with
That's really good because
you.
I never thought about where the anxiety was coming from, like where it's centered or focused on in
Mhm,
my body. I know when I feel it,
mhm.
and it feels like it's everywhere. But a lot of times it is just like it's a certain parts. And so how do we begin to recognize that too? I think that's a great point.
Yeah, yeah. You just have to stop and feel and allow yourself to feel. I think a lot of us kind of run from that.
Yeah,
We don't want to feel.
yeah,
You know, we don't want to, sit there and think about it because like we don't know what to do about it. So why ponder it?
right.
You know, but you have to. In order to figure out how to deal with it, you have to figure out what's actually going on. So if you are feeling, headaches, people get headaches all the time.
Mm,
You know, if you're feeling in your head, if you're feeling in your back, just recognize that first. I'm not saying sit there and cry over it, but definitely recognize it first.
right.
This is what's going on with my body. And then you can actually start doing something about it. So that's other things we can talk about another time. When it comes back to stop and the first P in stop, is put things in perspective.
Mm,
You know, a lot of us really look at things from one point of view. And I tell people all the time that if 360 people were holding hands around a mountain, we're all going to have a different, description of that mountain.
oh, that's so
You know, we
true.
all have different perspectives. We're all looking at the same thing. We're all looking at the same mountain, but we all have very different perspectives.
Mm,
And so it's about time, taking the time to try to look at things from a different, if you're feeling very anxious about going out, leaving the house, um, you know, take it from another perspective. Well, yeah, I'm leaving the house because I have to.
right.
But you know what? I have my gloves. I have my mask on. I'm around other people who have their mask on as well. So I'm probably not in as much danger as I was feeling before.
That's true,
You
and
know?
I do have a lot of anxiety still around going to the grocery store. It's still like a whole thing, and
Yeah.
it takes just so much longer. It's no quick runs anymore, and so I
Mhm.
think even that adds another layer of anxiety. But definitely just being out around people, around strangers, you're touching stuff that people are touching. It's a lot.
Right. But understand, I mean, if you look around, a lot of people are doing the same things you're doing. They're
It's
taking
true.
the same precautions you are.
Yeah,
And so that's lowering the risk of exposure.
that's true.
You know, so yeah, it's natural to feel anxiety, especially in this time and period with this kind of crisis going on. But you may not be in as much danger as and you want to recognize it. You want to recognize that in order to take that weight again off, you're not in as much danger as you were thinking that you are. This is it's a hazard out there, but you are taking your precautions. Others are doing the same. The risk is much lower.
That's great. I think that's so good to know about the self care and where we are and to. Oh wait, you got another piece. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, I got one more P. And the other P is, yeah, somebody said body scan. Yes, definitely do a body scan. That's the observe part. The last P in stop is practicing will work.
Mm,
You want to make sure that once you find things that work for you, continue to practice them. So breathing, if you find that breathing is helping you relax more, practice breathing.
right.
If you're finding that, um, you know, um, cooking your own meals instead of ordering out helps ease anxiety, then cook more.
Right.
Do the things that are helping you, that make you feel better. I think a lot of times we get away from that. We do it 1 or 2 times and say, hey, this is great, but then we forget and we get back into old pattern. No, once you see what works, continue doing what works. And that goes for during the crisis time and beyond the crisis.
That's really good. That's really good. And and when you mentioned that, me and my mentee child, Samia, we've been doing workout, like FaceTime workouts, several times during the week, and that has really helped my focus, and my stress levels. And so I feel like once I get my body moving, I'm able to kind of truck through like other tedious tasks. So and like I said, like this is something that we've been doing since. I mean, we did it some before, but now it's like, okay, this is part of our routine. It's something that we can keep up beyond this pandemic.
Right. That's magnificent. That's a smart thing to do. And it's good that you have someone to do that with.
Yeah.
And we're talking about that too. We're going to talk about actually doing self-care and making sure that you have partners in that self-care.
Yeah.
People to help motivate you and to keep you accountable.
Yes.
And keep you on the straight and narrow. But we'll talk about that once we get to the relational part of it.
So one other thing about self-care and self-love, I think a lot of times people who are single that are, you may live alone, I think a lot of times there's this, feeling of not being worthy or not feeling like enough, and like feeling like someone else can fix this for us. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to talk a little bit about what things that we can talk about for like we can be doing to practice more self-love, because I think a lot of times single people think once you get in a relationship that love band-aid is like cured,
right.
And what the practice or what the purpose of this time that we can be doing to make sure that we're holding healthy people before we get into relationships.
I mean, I think the first thing is going back to what we said at the jump is to be kind to yourself, be compassionate towards yourself. That's what you would expect from somebody else as well.
That's true.
You expect somebody to come in and care for yourself, and just be very easy, be very kind to yourself. That's the first thing. I think, in terms of more activities, like you mentioned, exercise is big. Whether you're exercising at home or you're going out to a park, whatever, if you can't find anyone to do that with, take the time to do it for yourself. Again, as you exercise and that adrenaline is pumping and your endorphins are flowing, you feel better.
Yeah.
And you don't need other people around to help you do that. You can do that yourself. Again, it's great to have a partner in that, whether it's, virtually or, you guys meet up and you're, 6 feet away from each other the entire time. It's good to have a partner in that. But even if you don't have that partner, you can take that upon yourself to do.
That's so true.
I think another thing to do is find a hobby. I mean, there are so many things. I know for me, I said when I left my job, to do therapy full time, my intention was to have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off.
Okay.
I was gonna have 3 days off. I front load the week. Sunday, I'm seeing clients all day, and I'm busy. Crap, from Sunday to Wednesday, I'm going.
You work. Let me tell y'all this. Tariiq is always working.
But my plan was to have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to do my own thing. So whether it's writing or doing something else, because I work with leather too, and the idea was that I would find other activities to get into. I wanted to learn how to play guitar. I want to learn Spanish. I want to learn French. There's so many different things I want to learn. Unfortunately, I haven't had the time to do that because I'm still doing all this other stuff.
Right.
But the idea is with this time that you do have, which means stopping your work, and this is another point too, stopping your work early. Stop it. If you stop at 5 o'clock when you're at work, stop at 5 o'clock when you're at home.
That's real.
So you have that time for yourself. But pick up a hobby. If you want to learn how to cook something. I mean, YouTube has all these different channels, instructional channels, that if you want to learn, you can learn. So definitely pick up a new hobby, pick up a new skill, take that time again to just do the things that you feel like you've always wanted to. You have the time right now. Again, be easy on yourself if you're not feeling motivated to do it. But once you do feel the motivation, go ahead and do it. Find that new skill.
I think that's such a good point, because actually a lot of times when you get into meeting someone new, if you don't have your own interests, if you haven't did your own self-evaluation, you don't have nothing to talk about. You have nothing to the conversation.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's really important to make sure that as we get older, that we're not letting our creative juices die that we're not
Mm-hmm.
that we're still learning, you know, and exploring what's possible. I think that's really, really important before we go into
Right.
a shared space.
Yeah, and the thing about that too is it's two-sided. Creativity is two-sided. You know,
Mm-hmm.
one is the learning, like I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Some of it is just doing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, how many people just paint just to paint,
That's true.
or draw on a coloring book, or create something out of nothing? You know, I have a friend of mine I watch on Instagram, and she's always doing something very creative every single day to keep herself busy, keep herself sane.
Right.
You know, so do something creative. You know, do something fun, something that you might have done when you were 5 years old. You know, that you had finger paint. Go finger paint.
That's
You know,
yeah.
but
I
just
get
do
that.
something creative, and that's just fun for fun's sake. Not that anything has come from it, nothing that you have to actually, sell or
Right.
anything like that. Just have fun. Just find some activities just to have fun. Play a board game, do a virtual board game or something
Yes.
for friends. But definitely just do something fun.
You know
I
what?
think the other
Once
thing.
you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
that, I thought about a lot of people. I know Deborah Cartwright, her ad, she had posted an adult coloring book. I think a
Mhm,
couple other companies are doing that as well. And
mhm.
that's a great de-stressor and it's creative as well. So I think that's a
Yeah.
great idea too. And then ordering, supplies to do painting. I love painting, so even that is
Mhm.
something on my list too.
Right. Or so I'm looking at the beautiful pillows behind you. Look at
Oh, true,
learn how to make a pillow.
true.
Learn how to make pillows. I mean, there are just a ton of things out there to do that you can learn to do and just do, just for the fun. You know. Um, the one thing I will say, I was reading an article earlier today about how some of the HBCUs are going into the community to do testing,
Yeah,
to do COVID-19 testing.
Howard typically is
Ha-
at the forefront, you know.
One of them, yeah, one of the HBCUs. Um, LU. Um, but the idea is to help other people, you
Mhm.
know, during this period of time.
Absolutely.
This, even if I know you may be anxious about going outside, it doesn't always call for going outside. You can make phone calls, you
So
can
true.
send letters, you can do whatever online. But the idea is to take the time to help other people who need help. You know, there are a lot of people out there in need, and there's so much that you can be doing to help those people. And so you don't have to sit around just kind of doing in your own juices of being miserable.
Mm.
The one way to feel the most fulfilled is to help other people, to be in service for other people. You know, so go ahead and help other people.
That's a great idea. And that's, I know that was like one of the keys to happiness in general. Like that's
Mhm.
serving, giving is one of the keys to how we create our own happiness. So that's really great for you to for you to bring it up. All right, so let's switch gears.
Okay, all right. What you
Let's
got? What you got?
talk about romantic relationships. First of
Don't
all,
nobody want to talk about relationships, man. Don't nobody want to talk about relationships.
everybody wants to talk about relationships.
Nobody wants to talk about relationships.
First of all, if you have questions, leave them in. There's a question little thing that you can leave questions so we can see them at the end or throughout, just in case we miss it on the actual thread. And leave it for us, and we'll take some time to answer those. And yeah, I've heard the extremes, Tariiq. I've seen the extreme. I've seen on one end, people relationships are getting really close. They're having time to
Mhm.
get to know each other. They're getting, learning each other again. And then I've seen the extremes where they want out, by any
Yeah,
means necessary. So
yeah.
what's going on with these relationships? How do we navigate this in this confined time? And I want to talk first maybe about the before you get in a relationship, because I feel like the problems that are happening now have probably already been there, right? And so
hmm
how do you begin to identify those before you stuck with someone in a pandemic?
You have to talk. You have to talk. You know, I do a lot of premarital counseling. And what I've been doing with some of my couples who've been married for a while is taking some of the information from the premarital counseling and bringing it into the regular couple session.
Okay.
Because there's so many conversations that people do not have, surprisingly, do not have before they get married.
Oof.
You know, and so I actually have some. I'm gonna address that a little bit later on. But you want to there are things that you probably don't talk about
Mm.
that you just don't even think to talk about, or in a way to even talk about. Like trying to think of something. Like where do you want to live? As you get older.
Oh.
Um, you know, how many kids do you want? Well, people always talk about how many kids they want to have. But, what would you do if, if one of your kids had a disability? You know, um, all the things that might pop up when you're married, you want to be able to talk about beforehand.
Wow.
Um, you want to talk about sex. You want to talk about, not necessarily the numbers that you've had,
Right.
but at least talk about your preferences,
Yeah.
the things that you enjoy. You want to be able to, just get into things that may come up later on. So have those conversations. Get a get a premarital book and sit down and go through those questions.
That's a
Um,
good thing. And I think a lot of times people just think like the sex will just click, or like what you want now is gonna be what you want next year, or 10 years from now. And if you're not comfortable having those conversations, beforehand, then like, at this point, like what's the point?
yeah, and it's surprising. A lot of people are very uncomfortable having certain conversations. Like, yo, you're about to spend your life with this person.
That's so true.
So at least that's your intention,
Right.
and you're uncomfortable having these conversations. Come on, come on, people, come on. You want to talk about this kind of stuff. You have to, because when it comes up later on, if you're not prepared to have that conversation, it just adds to whatever troubles you already have. And you can kind of get that out of the way now by having those conversations. So talk. You have to talk.
So what are some of the issues that you see in your practice that you feel like are common across the board that people aren't having that conversation that should be like at the forefront, in addition to the ones you mentioned?
I think one of the things is just being honest about who they are from the jump. I think that's a big thing. I think I've seen a lot of people kind of portray what they believe their mate wants.
Wow.
Either based on who they've been with beforehand or what they think. Because they'll listen to you and say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to show them. But you can't wear that mask forever. That thing is going to crumble and fall off. And so you need to be very aware and very open about who you are from jump. And yeah, you may be taking a risk at losing that person, but do you really want the weight of pretending to be something that you're not just to keep somebody?
That's real.
So
All day, every day.
every day, right? And then when it does pop up, they look at you like, who are you?
Right.
This isn't who I married. No, you want to make sure that you're being upfront. But a lot of people are very afraid of that kind of honesty, But then again, like I said, it goes back to the questions that you ask and the conversations that you have. People will lie to you. Let's get that out and open. People will lie to you.
We lie
But
to ourselves,
nonstop, right? But the idea is to have more meaningful conversation that you have a better understanding of, who you are and who you are with this other person.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some of the conversations that you've been guiding through the pandemic? What's some issues that you feel have been coming up as a result of COVID-19, and what conversations are you having with with couples?
It's been amazing that a lot of my couples who were having major problems before COVID-19 are doing so much better right now. I'm really, really proud of them. I'm really proud of them. A lot of the techniques and tools I've been teaching them over this, over the whatever period of time we were seeing each other. Now that they're home, they're doing much, much better. And I attribute that to, you're kind of stuck in the house. You really can't go anywhere. And it's forcing you, in order just to maintain peace, it's forcing you to be patient. It's really forcing you to be more patient with each other. And now it's like, okay, well, I better practice the things that we've been talking about, because otherwise it's going to be hell in here.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and practice these techniques, whether it's validation or different communication techniques, problem solving, whatever it is. Let's sit down and actually practice these things and implement them so that we're not driving each other crazy. And they've been doing very, very well with that. So I've been shocked.
And maybe
I've been
the
very proud.
fact that people are having more time to actually like work through, it's not like just a passing in the dark, that people are having probably a little bit more dedicated time to dig through.
More intentional time, but at the same time, you can't get away. There's nothing to hide behind.
That's true.
You can't hide behind your work. You're not going out with people.
Yeah.
You're stuck there. You can't run from it. I don't care how big your house is. You cannot hide from that energy when that energy is really heavy and negative. You can't hide from it.
That's true.
And so you don't want to sit in that all day long. So you're going to deal with it. And that's exactly what they've been doing. People have really been working in a healthy manner with one another to make sure that they're not feeling that negative energy all day long.
You know what? I didn't
If
even
you go
think
to
about
work,
that.
you can get away from that.
The pleasure of living by myself about other people's energy, though. But I have, there's times where you walk into someone else's house and you feel the tension, or you walk into a workspace with someone and y'all don't like each other, and like y'all might not even be in the same, vicinity, but you can feel that energy. And I didn't really think about, like, I couldn't imagine living in a space with that tension constantly and not feeling safe, even emotionally safe in your home.
Yeah, you feel trapped.
Yeah.
You feel trapped, and that you don't want to feel that all the time.
Mm.
Like, you can escape that by going to work.
Yeah.
You can escape that by hanging out or going to see other people. You can just hop in your car and go somewhere and just cool out for a little while and just get away from it. You can't get away from it now.
Yeah.
You are there, so you're being forced to deal with it. You're really being forced to deal with it, and to learn. And like I said, they're learning patience that they didn't realize they had before.
That's so true.
So that's been great. That's been great. The thing that I've been finding are the couples who aren't in the house together. Those people are the ones who are still struggling. The communication is particularly bad.
Okay.
Because they don't have the same face-to-face time that they would before.
Okay.
So a lot of those, even the therapists, we're having a hard time. We're exhausted because there are certain cues that you pick up on from people when you're face-to-face.
Right.
And so if you're a couple, you can just imagine if most of the time that you're seeing each other or dealing with each other is through video or phone or text, those cues you're not able to pick up on. So it's easy to misinterpret some things that people are saying or their intention. So it's the people who are not living together that are probably struggling the most right now.
That makes sense. What are some things that you feel like they could implement, or just couples in general, relationships in general, for people who are struggling right now? What are some things that they can begin to implement, or conversations they can begin to have with each other to try to bring some peace and serenity into their spaces?
We mentioned earlier about checking in with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to check in with each other too. Check in regularly. I mean, that's a lot of what I'm going to say goes for even in times when we're not in crisis.
Right.
But specifically right now, you want to be very intentional about checking in with your mate and seeing how they're doing. Seeing what they're going through, and you might be experiencing the same thing. Just because you're experiencing it doesn't mean you can't help somebody with what they have going on. Just because you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed doesn't mean you can't help your mate feeling anxious and overwhelmed. So you want to make sure you're checking with them to see how they're doing and what you can do to support each other. I think a lot of times we can become very passive aggressive in communicating our needs. And I think we need to be very, very clear with our mate about how we're feeling and how we're doing and what we need from each other. And that's the main thing.
I think that's such a good point to bring up. And I know we've talked about this in the barbershop before, but a lot of times I feel like we think our mates are supposed to just, know how to address the situation, know how we feel, know what we need. And a lot of times we don't take the time to know what we need. We just know,
right.
We're upset, or we don't feel like we're getting the attention we need. But like, what's the root of that? And whose responsibility is it? And then, how do we begin to communicate that? I think it's really key. And I think something we have to do often, like to check in and how we figure to best communicate that without, pissing the other person off.
Right. You have to talk. I mean, a lot of people have a really bad forms and styles of communication, and you have to work on that. So coming to therapy, I'll help you out with that part. But it's important that that's right, insight, baby. But you need to be able to check in with each other and communicate exactly what's going on with you. And from there, once you have a better understanding of that, just like you have a better understanding of what's going on with you, that's when the care comes in. We talk about self-care. Now we're talking about mutual care. That care that you get from somebody else.
I never heard that term before my entire life.
I just made it up.
It's a new
but like
thing,
we were talking about,
mutual care, mutual. Got it.
But we talked earlier about self-care. Well, you don't have to do practice self-care on your own. You can practice that with your mate.
Okay.
Meditate together, go for walks together, exercise together, you know, cook together, you know, whatever you're doing to help yourself feel better, you can do that with your mate
That's
too.
so true.
You know, and that's why you want to check in, find out what's going on with them, so you know what to do better. You know, so just help each other out in that way. So, you know, we're gonna meditate. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna meditate. You know, that's what me and my mate. We sit down. We'll meditate. We'll exercise. You know, we're making sure that we're both in tune with each other and what each other needs. But the only way you can do that is by actually communicating what your needs are. You, if you don't communicate that, how will anybody know? You have to
You're supposed to
verbalize.
guess, Tariiq. You're supposed to guess. You're supposed to.
Ain't no guessing going on here because we guess wrong so
We
often.
do. We do. We
I ain't
do.
guessing nothing.
And you
All
know what?
right, tell
I can
me.
definitely say from like my last relationship where it's like I put so much energy into, you know, A, when really what they needed was B, you know. And so how do you
Mhm.
begin to like make sure that you're managing your own energy and not putting it in the wrong spaces? So I think that's really good to continue like to check in. I know Dr. Lee had said they check in like him and his significant other they check in like once a month or something, and we're just like,
Mhm.
is this working for you? What you need, you know? And I think
Mhm.
that's really important, and maybe even more often than that now. As
Yeah.
you know, our needs are changing and not waiting
Yeah.
to stuff to stew before you know you erupt.
Right. Because I mean, contempt can set in very quickly. You know,
Mm,
contempt for your mate can set in really quickly when your needs aren't being met, especially now when you're going through so much.
true.
Like you mentioned earlier, you know, our senses and our emotions are heightened.
Yeah.
And that kind of state things is very, very quick. And you want to make sure that, you know, you're not allowing that resentment to set in just because you haven't communicated your needs. You're
Mm,
sitting there waiting for somebody to figure out what's wrong with you. And you're resenting them for not doing that.
yeah.
No, you have to talk it out. You have to talk about what's going on. You know, so you definitely want to be able to do that. Um, you know, one of the main things that I think some people may struggle with is boundaries.
Mm.
We're all home. We're all home together. You know, those of us who are fortunate to work from home, we have to have healthy boundaries.
Mm.
You know, if I'm working all day long, I don't need you coming to knock on the door, whatever room I'm in, or, you know, if you're because you're feeling, you know, bored. No, I need time to focus on my work. You know,
Mm.
I really need that time to focus on that, and I can't have you interfering with that constantly. So you have to have healthy boundaries, especially around work. On the flip side of that, though, is you also want to make sure that you're cutting work off at a certain time.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that's happening is that, you know, a lot of our organizations become much more efficient because people spend so much more time working.
Mm.
You
True.
know, you're working from home, so you just don't know when to stop. People are constantly contacting you, so people are doing so much more work. You have to cut it off.
Yeah.
You have to cut it. People have to know they don't have access to you all day long. Look it. I saw it on 8 o'clock. I'm out at 5, whatever time it is. Look it, and then I'm done. Cut that off, and that's the time that you begin to either, you know, reflect and deal with your own stuff, or spend that time with your mate. Again, be very intentional about the time. Spend that time with them,
I,
but you have to cut it off.
I think that's a great point you bring up because even when you're dating, if you have the expectation, like, okay, you know, I am working on this project from this time, but at 8 o'clock, then we're doing our thing. And like, even just having that communication. So, like, 6 o'clock, you're not bugging out for no reason because you already have
Mhm.
that communication piece in place.
Yeah, yeah, you have to. That's key. This is key. Um, this is another one. Um, chores,
Oh, oh,
domestic labor.
mm,
All right.
mm.
Now, you don't want to keep score on who's doing what around the house,
But
but more than likely, you're keeping score. You know, if you're the one always, you know, emptying out the dishwasher and doing the dishes and you know, cleaning up around the house, and your mate is just sitting there watching the TV.
go do more.
Yeah, yeah. That again, that resentment is going to start setting in.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you are being conscious of what you are and not doing around the house.
Okay.
You want to be able to carry that weight. You want to be able to share in that with the other person. And so they're busy like you are. They don't need to be cleaning up after you. You know, you don't need to be leaving a mess around. At the same time, you want to make sure you're contributing to what's going on in the house.
Right.
So whether that's helping to educate the kids if you have kids at if that means walking the dog if you have a pet, if that means, again, doing the dishes, cooking, whatever those household tasks are, you want to make sure that you guys are, you're carrying your own weight and that you're helping out with that. Because again, and I hate to use the resentment word so often, but that resentment is real. And once that sets in, it's so hard to break because now the person had created a narrative about you, who you are, and it's hard to break the narrative. Oh, you're just lazy. Oh, you're just nasty. You're just dirty. And even when you start cleaning up, the time that you don't, it goes right back to that narrative.
So true. That's so
Yeah.
true. Because it's already a default. Or it's not to the expectations that you feel like, oh, you did it this one time, so all this passive aggressiveness behind it because you already didn't say the resentment.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're at all times we're trying to avoid that resentment. Okay, we're just trying to avoid that. Like I mentioned earlier, the one, like I said, what I see with a lot of my couples is that they're being much more patient. You have to be patient. You have to be patient. Again, we're all going through something very traumatic right now. And even if you're checking in, you just don't know, you don't always know how much something's affecting your mate. And so you want to be patient with them. Yeah, you have this expectations of what they should be doing. But if they're not feeling that motivation, if they're feeling overwhelmed by something else or even by you, they may not be able to meet that expectation. So be patient. Allow them the room to be able to, deal with whatever they have going on, if you help them or not.
Right.
Give them the room to deal with that so they can function as a normal human being. But they can't, and people cannot live up to your expectations all the time. So you need to sit back, be patient, allow some things, be encouraging, but don't be forceful. And don't have these expectations that are impossible to meet where people are right now. So you definitely want to be patient.
That's so true. I just want to see if there's any questions for people that are out there. I know I saw some stuff in the thread, but are you prepared to encounter pushback when you start setting boundaries? And be prepared. Oh, that's good. Leave.
But you're always gonna have pushback. You're always gonna have pushback when it comes to boundaries, and I've had clients who were afraid to create healthy boundaries with their family because they felt like once they did that, their family's gonna shun them. So it's really hard to sometimes implement boundaries, but we all have boundaries for a reason. In order for us to be healthy and maintain a certain healthy lifestyle, we have to have boundaries. And so, yeah, there may be some pushback, and like she said, prepare for that pushback. But at the same time, don't allow that pushback to dictate how much boundaries you actually set. You have to set those boundaries.
What boundaries do you feel like when you're getting to know someone that, should be discussed? Because sometimes you don't realize that's a boundary until it's already crossed, and then you didn't know you needed to have that conversation. You like this an assumption that, it was understood and then it's not understood,
I think one in particular is some people need time by themselves. Some people are really introverted.
Sure.
And though they may have very outgoing personalities, they may be introverted. And so even being at home with each other and creating that boundary at home, and respecting that boundary at home, you don't have to be up under people all the time. Somebody may need a little distance. Yeah, that doesn't mean they love you any less, they care for you any less, but they just need a little room. So give them that room. When they're ready, they'll come back out. But at the time, and in that moment when that happens, you have to figure out how to self-soothe so you can relax your own nerve. But you have to give people that room to just be by themselves sometimes. And that's okay. It's okay that they're by themselves and that you're by yourself.
Can you talk about that for a little bit, just in case people aren't familiar with the term and what something like that could look like?
What was that? I missed
it. Or self-soothe, just in case somebody's not familiar with that term or what that looks like. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
So imagine for a second that you're in a heated argument with your mate. It's going nowhere, and your mate says, "Okay, I need a timeout. I just need to get away from this because it's not going anywhere." But you're still, you're still feeling all that angst about it, and you haven't come to some kind of resolution. Well, if your mate's asking for a timeout and they need to leave you in order to, get themselves together, you're still feeling all that angst. But what you have to learn how to do is calm yourself down, in the meantime, so that the person has room to get themselves together, and you can get yourself together as well. But it's a technique. When you're self-soothing, you're essentially figuring out a way to calm yourself down in the moment. So if you're really anxious about something, kind of relieve yourself that anxiety. So whether it's breathing, exercising, just finding something else to get into to get your mind off things, just to calm yourself down. That's what self-soothing is.
That's good. That's good. And I know sometimes that can be somebody's favorite TV show or a book, or like you
Right.
said, going for a walk, talking to your friends for a little bit, whatever that is, like that. I think, just kind of bringing it back that your happiness is your responsibility. Like it cannot
Right.
be fully on the weight of someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we often put so much weight on what we want from somebody else that when they can't give it to us, it just drives absolutely crazy.
Right.
But again, you can't expect anybody to cure you of that angst.
Mm.
You have to do that for yourself. So you need to be able to just breathe, calm down, get away from it for a second, allow that person the space to do what they have to do, and then come back and engage. But but that's really hard for people. They don't know how to calm themselves down. They never learned that technique of calming themselves down.
I think
But
I
that's
think
important.
that's a good thing too to bring up in this pandemic, because normally you can go out with your friends, you can have
Mhm.
drinks, you can have drinks, but go to happy hour, you can get into all this stuff where you won't have to actually learn the technique of self-soothing, right? You'll just stay busy, but not
Right.
necessarily know how to do the check-in and to make sure that
Mhm.
you're managing your emotions in a healthy way.
Right, right, definitely, definitely. Something else before I know we're gonna run out of time soon, and I don't know if there's any questions in there, but there are some things I want you to actually do with your mate too,
Okay.
um, that may be helpful during this period of time. First, again, you have to be very intentional about the time that you're spending with your mate.
Mm.
So when I'm telling you to turn off your computer or your work early, then take that time and be very intentional. Engage with your mate or engage with your family. No, don't just. You may need some time to calm yourself down and just unwind, but you want to take the time to be very intentional about spending time with your family.
Right.
Engage. No, don't just hide from them. Yes, like I said, some people need those boundaries just to be alone for a little while, but your family is there. They need you just as much as you need your peace.
Mm.
So make sure that you're actually engaging with them. Um, but when it comes to just in terms of the romantic thing, make sure that you're doing home dates. I've been promoting that like crazy
Yeah.
with my couple. Finding creative ways to go on dates. You may not be able to go out to restaurants, movies, or anything like that, but you can implement different techniques at home. One thing they say is, okay, if you're in your living room and you have you want to watch a movie, well, don't sit on the couch. Move the table. If you have a coffee table, move the coffee table out of the way, put a blanket down, and act like you're watching a movie at a drive-in or something.
Oh yeah.
Sit on the floor, have your food down there, your snacks down
Oh,
there,
like a
just look at
picnic.
like a picnic. So again, it's about different perspectives.
Yeah.
When it comes to eating, do your date night at home too, but find a different way, a different place to eat.
Mm.
So if you're usually eating on your couch watching TV, well, remember that dining room table that you have that or that mail on it, move the mail out the way
True.
instead of the dining room table. Or sit in another room, eat in the kitchen, standing up. But just do something different. Have your meal in a different place than you normally would, just to kind of shake things up a bit. Again,
Even
all
outside
about
now
being,
that the weather is warming up a little bit too, would be good.
yeah,
In,
yeah. If you can get outside, do it.
yeah.
Go eat in your car. Go act like you just want to drive. You know, Something again, just to make sure that you have a different perspective than you typically do. And I think the big thing too, like I said, about having these conversations you may not have had before. This is a game. I have it here that I work with my couples all the time. It's called the Ungame. I'm not promoting the Ungame. I'm not being paid for this, just so you know. It's not paid advertisement.
What is it
But
called?
it's called the Ungame.
The
You see it?
ungame. Yeah, it's reversed because of the way the camera works.
Oh, yeah, true that. But yeah, it's the Ungame. And so the Ungame is great because what it does is it gives you two sets of cards. One are questions that are pretty mild, very easy to answer. Don't get too deep. And the second set of cards gets very, very deep.
Okay.
And they're questions that you may not typically have with your mate. that you may have missed before.
Mm.
And so just to give you an example, from the first deck, um, do you pick up after yourself or let things lie around? You know,
Oh.
just being honest with you. What are your goals in your relationship? Name one thing you wish your mate would do more often. Do you like to be told what to do, or do you like to be your own boss, and why? You know,
Clearly.
very simple question. But these are things you may not really know about your mate,
That's
so
so
you want to
true.
make sure that you know your mate picks up on it. But then, like I said, deck number two gets a little bit deeper. How do you think your mate would describe your relationship to someone else?
Ooh.
Um, say something about your need for privacy. What activity might cause you to lose track of time? I mean, this is like a lot of just really great questions in here that give you the opportunity to get to know your mate even better. You may have been with somebody for 25, 30 years, and there are certain things that you really don't understand about them.
Yeah.
A game like this, these couples games, give you an opportunity to talk about things again in a way that you may not have discussed them before, to just get to a deeper level. I have clients who often talk about how all their conversations are all very surface.
How you doing?
Well, how you doing? Fine. And then they move on to their own thing. Here's your opportunity. You have this time. Again, you're being intentional about the time you spend with your mate. Turn off the TV.
Right.
You know, if you want to turn on some music, whatever. But sit down and ask questions.
You know
Come up
what?
with
And that's
good
another game that a friend brought up last week too, which I've heard about it, but I had never experienced it. Was We're Not Really Strangers, and
Mhm.
it's the same thing. They have like level 1, level 2, level 3. I think it's
Mhm.
something is perspective, maybe reflection, and something else. But as you go through the
Mhm.
levels, it gets harder. And then once you get done with the rounds, you have to send the person. So it's just not limited to just significant others, but I think it's a really good exercise to write a note to the other person.
Mhm.
And I think, again, like kind of the same concept, I think, with the Ungame, making sure that we're digging. And some of the questions that were asked, I hadn't thought about. So I need to kind of
Right.
have some time to think about. Some I was able to think about on the spot, and some I had to like, I need to come back to this because I haven't put any thought into that.
Hmm. Yeah. Get deeper. You want to add more depth to your conversations.
I love that.
If you're wondering why you guys are growing apart because you don't know each other,
Mm.
take that time to really get to know each other on a deeper level. Have these deeper conversations. Bring different tools into the mix. So if it takes a deck of cards for you to do that, then use them. But they're great conversation starters, and make sure you're not just answering them to answer them. Answer them in a way that will help your mate understand you better, in a way that you want to be understood.
Awesome, awesome. So we're in the last 2 minutes. We just want to do a final call to make sure there's no questions. And then let us know if we have any closing thoughts, any more parting instructions. We definitely hope that everyone stays safe and well and whole. And that we're using this time to, deepen all our spaces, all our friendships, even with our family, checking in more with our loved ones, and creating more space for ourselves as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. Your friends, I know,
Shout out to my
it's
friends.
hard sometimes. Huh?
I said, shout out to friends, man. They been
Yeah.
a lifeline for sure.
But for some people, they're having a hard time reaching out to friends too because of how much they're going through.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that that when you do think of your friends, go ahead and reach out.
Yeah.
Check in on them, see how they're doing. You don't always have to talk about yourself, but find out what's going on with them too. Same thing with your family.
Yeah.
Just reach out. And do it when you're ready to do it, but make sure you're doing it. You miss them. We get it.
Yeah.
We get that you're going through a lot. And, I know people have the attitude sometimes too that, well, you're not checking on me. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for somebody checking on you.
That's real.
Go ahead, make the first step. Give them a call. Check them out. See how they're doing.
That's so true. That's so true. Well, thank you all for coming through. We appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So hopefully this will save, and we'll have it up for 24 hours, and we'll see you on the other side, Tariiq.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My earbuds literally just died.
Just died.
So it's like I can barely hear you.
No problem. Thank you so much, Tariiq, and we'll see you shortly, and we got to do this again soon.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Take care, everybody. Hope you guys got something out of this.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Bye now.